The sprawling human megacity stunned Pryler as his shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere. Las Vegas, New York, and Shanghai combined covered barely a fraction of this glittering expanse. Towering skyscrapers reached into the sky. Vast green parks dotted the urban landscape. Gleaming infrastructure stretched to the horizon in every direction. Prylar had never seen a city this enormous on his homeworld Tyran or the dozen planets he'd visited. The young Tyranian diplomat tried to calm his nerves. He was here to establish formal relations with the humans as part of the first Tyranian delegation to Earth. But the sheer scale and grandeur of the megacity made him uneasy. It dwarfed anything he had ever seen and revealed the true might of human civilization. The shuttle landed with a jolt. Pryler steeled himself and stepped onto the landing pad with the other delegates. A human delegation waited for them, led by the imposing Ambassador John Novak. The man had a firm handshake and a confident smile. Around them, the megacity hummed with activity and casual displays of wealth and power. Pryler knew the future of his species hinged on this first encounter going well. The Tyranian Empire was crumbling after centuries of war and needed a strong ally. Only a partnership with the rising human civilization offered any hope for survival. But as Pryler gazed at the mind-boggling human megacity around him, he began to doubt if the Tyranians had anything of value to offer the humans in return. Ambassador Novak gestured to a sleek white vehicle waiting for us. "Please step inside. I have much to show you all." The passenger compartment was more luxurious than some high-end Tyranian hotels I had stayed at. The seats were made of supple leather, and holographic displays lined the walls. As soon as we were seated, the vehicle lifted off the ground and merged into a stream of traffic above the streets. "Welcome to New Babylon, the crown jewel of Earth," Novak said, his voice filled with pride. "Over 100 million people call this city home." I tried to wrap my head around that number. The entire population of my homeworld was barely half that. How do you manage to feed and house so many people in one place? Novak smiled. "New Babylon is completely self-sufficient. We generate our own power, grow our own food, and process our own waste. Everything is recycled and reused." As if to illustrate his point, the vehicle flew past a massive vertical farm. Crops grew on every level, tended to by robotic drones. Solar panels and wind turbines dotted the structure, harnessing renewable energy. "We'll be taking the maglev train to the city center," Novak said as the vehicle landed at a bustling transportation hub. "It's the fastest way to travel." I watched in awe as the high-speed train arrived, levitating above the tracks using magnetic force. We boarded the train, and within seconds it accelerated to an incredible speed. The city blurred past the windows. "How do you prevent accidents at these speeds?" I asked, gripping my seat. Novak chuckled. "The entire system is automated and controlled by AI. Human error has been eliminated from the equation." The train ride was smooth and silent, a far cry from the rattling and clanking of Tyranian transportation. We arrived at the city center in a matter of minutes. As we exited the station, I was struck by the abundance of green spaces woven into the urban fabric. Parks, gardens, and tree-lined walkways were everywhere, creating a harmonious blend of nature and technology. "On Earth, we recognize the importance of integrating nature into our cities," Novak explained, noticing my fascination. "It promotes mental health and well-being." We walked through a bustling plaza filled with humans of all ages and backgrounds. Children played in interactive fountains, while adults relaxed on benches, engrossed in holographic displays. "Education and healthcare are fundamental rights here," Novak said, pointing to a sleek building with a holographic sign that read, "New Babylon University." "Every citizen has access to free, high-quality schooling from kindergarten to postgraduate studies." Next to the university was a state-of-the-art medical center. Novak explained that preventive care and advanced treatments were available to all, regardless of socio-economic status. As the tour progressed, I felt a growing sense of inadequacy. The Tyranians had been a spacefaring civilization for centuries, but we had never achieved this level of technological and social advancement. Our cities were overcrowded, our resources strained, and our people divided by class and status. The formal dinner was held in a grand ballroom, with high ceilings and ornate chandeliers that cast a warm glow over the room. The tables were set with fine china and crystal glassware, and the aroma of delicious food wafted through the air. I found myself seated next to a young human named Alex, who introduced himself as Ambassador Novak's aide. He had a friendly smile and an eager curiosity about Tyranian culture. "Tell me about your homeworld," Alex said, leaning in with interest. "What's it like?" I hesitated for a moment, unsure of how much to reveal. But something about Alex's open and honest demeanor made me feel at ease. "Tyran was once a great civilization," I began, my voice tinged with sadness. "But over the centuries, we've fallen into decline." Alex listened intently as I described the corruption that had seeped into every level of our government, the social inequality that divided our people, and the environmental degradation that threatened our planet's future. "Our cities are overcrowded and polluted," I said, shaking my head. "Our resources are dwindling, and our leaders seem more interested in preserving their own power than in solving our problems." Alex nodded, his brow furrowed in concern. "I understand," he said softly. "Earth faced similar challenges in our past. There was a time when our cities were choked with smog, our oceans were filled with plastic, and our people were divided by hatred and prejudice." I looked at him in surprise. "How did you overcome it?" Alex smiled. "It wasn't easy," he admitted. "But we realized that we had to work together if we wanted to survive. We invested in clean energy and sustainable technologies. We reformed our political systems to be more transparent and accountable, and we focused on education and social programs to ensure that everyone had a fair chance at success." He leaned forward, his eyes shining with excitement. "But the most important thing was that we found a shared sense of purpose. We realized that we were all part of something bigger than ourselves, and that we had a responsibility to leave the world a better place than we found it." I felt a glimmer of hope stirring in my chest. "Do you think the Tyranians could do the same?" I asked hesitantly. Alex reached out and placed a hand on my shoulder. "I believe that any civilization has the potential for greatness," he said firmly. "It's just a matter of finding the right path forward." He paused for a moment, as if considering something. "If you'd like, I could share some of the lessons we've learned with you and your people. Maybe it could help you find a way to turn things around." I felt a surge of gratitude towards this kind and compassionate human. "I would like that very much," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Thank you, Alex." He smiled warmly. "You're welcome, Pryler. We're all in this together, after all. The universe is a big place, but we're stronger when we work together." As the dinner continued, I found myself engaged in deep conversation with Alex, discussing the challenges and opportunities facing our respective civilizations. For the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of hope for the future of the Tyranians. Maybe, with the help of our new human friends, we could find a way to rebuild our once great society and take our rightful place among the stars. The diplomatic visit was coming to an end, and I found myself at a crossroads. Over the past few days, I had seen firsthand the incredible achievements of human civilization. Their cities were marvels of technology and social innovation, their people united by a shared sense of purpose and a commitment to progress. In contrast, my own people, the Tyranians, seemed hopelessly mired in the past. We had been a great civilization once, but centuries of stagnation and decay had left us weak and divided. I knew that many of my fellow Tyranians, especially those in power, would be resistant to change. They would see the humans as a threat to their way of life, a challenge to their authority. But I also knew that we could not go on as we were forever. Our planet was dying, our people were suffering, and our future looked bleak. The humans had faced similar challenges in their past, and had overcome them through innovation, cooperation, and a willingness to adapt. They were living proof that a better way was possible. I wrestled with these thoughts as I made my way to a private meeting with Ambassador Novak and his aide Alex. They had been kind and welcoming throughout our visit, and I felt a growing sense of trust and admiration towards them. As we sat down in a quiet conference room, I took a deep breath and steeled myself for what I was about to say. "Ambassador Novak, Alex," I began, my voice trembling slightly. "I want to thank you for your hospitality and for showing us the wonders of your world." They both smiled and nodded, but I could see the curiosity in their eyes. They knew I had something more to say. "I also want to ask for your help," I continued, my heart pounding in my chest. "My people are in trouble. We have been stagnating for too long, and we need to change if we want to survive. But I fear that many of my fellow Tyranians will resist that change, even if it means our own destruction." I paused for a moment, gathering my courage. "I believe that your people have the knowledge and the technology to help us. You have faced the same challenges that we face now, and you have found a way to overcome them. If you could share some of that knowledge with us, if you could help us to reform our society and build a better future, I believe that we could become a great civilization once again." Ambassador Novak's expression was difficult to read. He leaned back in his chair and steepled his fingers, his brow furrowed in thought. "Pryla," he said at last, his voice measured and careful, "I appreciate your candor and your trust in us. But what you're asking is no small thing. Interfering in another species' internal affairs is a delicate matter, and it could have unintended consequences." I felt my heart sink, but before I could respond, Alex spoke up. "Ambassador," he said, his voice firm but respectful, "I understand your concerns, but I believe we have a moral obligation to help those in need. The Tyranians are not our enemies. They are our neighbors in the galaxy. If we turned our backs on them now, knowing that we could have made a difference, how could we live with ourselves?" He turned to me, his eyes shining with conviction. "Pryla, I meant what I said before. Your people have the potential for greatness, just like any other civilization. If there is anything we can do to help you realize that potential, we should do it. Not because it's easy, but because it's the right thing to do." Ambassador Novak was silent for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Finally he sighed and leaned forward, placing his hands on the table. "You're right, Alex," he said at last. "We cannot turn our backs on those who need our help. Pryla, I cannot make any promises, but I will bring your request to my superiors and argue for its approval. If we can find a way to help your people without compromising our own principles, we will do so." I felt a surge of gratitude and relief wash over me. "Thank you, Ambassador," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "You have no idea how much this means to me and to my people." Alex reached out and clasped my hand, his grip firm and reassuring. "We're in this together, Pryla," he said, his voice filled with warmth and compassion. "Your people are not alone anymore. We will do everything in our power to help you build a better future, one step at a time." As the meeting ended and we parted ways, I felt a renewed sense of hope and purpose. The road ahead would not be easy, and there would be many challenges and obstacles to overcome. But with the help of our new human friends, I believed that anything was possible. Together, we could build a brighter future for both our species and for the galaxy as a whole. The shuttle ride back to Tyran was the longest of my life. I paced the cramped cabin, my mind racing with the enormity of the task ahead. I knew that convincing my people to embrace change would be an uphill battle, but with the support of the human government and the lessons I had learned on Earth, I was determined to see it through. As soon as I landed, I was greeted by a delegation of high-ranking Tyranian officials, including my own father. Their expressions ranged from skeptical to outright hostile, and I could feel the tension in the air as I stepped off the shuttle. "Pryla," my father said, his voice cold and formal, "I trust your visit to Earth was productive?" I took a deep breath and met his gaze steadily. "More than productive, Father," I said. "I believe that the humans may hold the key to our salvation as a species." There was an audible gasp from the assembled officials, and my father's face twisted in anger. "You would have us abandon our traditions and values, all for the sake of some upstart species?" he spat. You are a traitor to your own kind." I stood my ground, even as his words cut me to the core. "I am no traitor," I said firmly. "I am trying to save our people from a fate worse than death. If we continue down our current path, we will be nothing more than a footnote in the annals of galactic history. Is that what you want for the Terranians?" My father opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, a young Tyranian stepped forward from the crowd. I recognized her as Zara, a rising star in the government who had always been an outspoken advocate for reform. "Prylar is right," she said, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "We cannot go on as we have been. The humans have shown us that a better way is possible, and we would be fools to ignore their example." There were murmurs of agreement from some of the younger officials, and I felt a surge of hope. Perhaps I was not alone in my desire for change after all. Over the next few months, I worked tirelessly to build support for my vision of a new Tiran. With the help of human advisors and technology, Zara and I began to implement a series of sweeping reforms aimed at overhauling every aspect of our society. We started with the infrastructure, building new transportation networks and power grids that were cleaner, more efficient, and more reliable than anything we had ever seen before. We also revamped our education system, providing free, high-quality schooling to every Tyranian child and adult who wanted it. But the real challenge came when we began to tackle the deep-seated social and cultural issues that had plagued our society for so long. We fought to end the rampant corruption that had seeped into every level of our government, and we worked to promote greater equality and justice for all Tyranians, regardless of their background or social status. It was a slow and painful process, with many setbacks and challenges along the way. There were times when I felt like giving up, when the resistance from those who clung to the old ways seemed too great to overcome. But whenever I faltered, I thought back to my time on Earth and the incredible things I had seen there. I remembered the kindness and compassion of people like Alex and Ambassador Novak, who had believed in me even when I doubted myself. And slowly but surely, things began to change. As our society became more prosperous and stable, more and more Tyranians began to see the value in the reforms we were implementing. They saw how much better life could be when everyone had access to education, healthcare, and opportunity, and they began to embrace the idea of a brighter future for all. As our ties with the humans and other spacefaring species grew stronger, I could see the Tyranians taking their rightful place among the great civilizations of the galaxy. We were no longer a species in decline, but a rising power with a bright future ahead of us. And through it all, I knew that none of it would have been possible without the help and support of our human friends. They had shown us the way forward, not through force or coercion, but through the power of their example and the strength of their compassion. As I looked out over the gleaming cities of the new Tiran, I felt a deep sense of gratitude and pride. We had come so far, and there was still so much more to be done. But with the help of the humans and the determination of my own people, I knew that anything was possible. Together we would build a better future for the Tyranians and for the galaxy as a whole. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.